Hello and welcome back to Vintage Gaming Memories. If you like what you see here, please like, subscribe, and comment below. Your support helps grow this channel and it always is appreciated. Now let's jump into this one. So starting this month, October 2023, and every month that follows, what I'm planning on doing is I'll create a video like the one you're about to see. This series of monthly videos are going to be called Antics and Analogs 40 years ago. So it's exactly what it sounds like. I'll be going through the issues of Antic and ANALOG magazine from when they were issued 40 years from the current month. And then I'll pull out details that seem interesting along the way. Now, I won't comment on everything in the issue or else it'll be like an hour video. So just the highlights and maybe, I don't know, perhaps a program, a game or something like that I'll probably type in along the way. We'll just see how it goes. We'll play it by ear. So for this month, I have thoroughly reviewed Antic Volume 2, number 7, from October 1983, and Analog number 13 from September/October 1983. What I think will be a challenge is to erase and remove any bias I have from what I know today, because obviously I'm going back in time to bring to light the significance of, anything I see in these magazines for that current issue. What was interesting to read as I traveled back 40 years is in this Antic issue here, we learn more about the family running Broderbund software. And that was right in the beginning here. By the way, Broderbund is a German word for brotherhood. And there it is. And speaking of brothers, there are two brothers, the Carlston brothers, Doug and Gary. Here. This was a pretty cool article. I mean, there were some things here I did not know. They're from Eugene, Oregon. In 1980, they started this company. They're both Harvard grads, and they focused early software on strategy games like Galactic Saga for the TRS-80. But as the company grew from 5 employees to 60, they totally moved physically to San Rafael, California, just because they wanted to be closer to the action, and that's where technology was emerging at that time. At that point, they also had another member of their family join, which is right here, their sister, Kathy. So now they got a real family business going here. You got 3 members of the Carlston clan running this company. It should be noted, because I did mention the TRS-80, Galactic Saga, but this software that they were producing was originally for the TRS-80 and the Apple line before they added Atari to the mix. What I found interesting in this article was that they couldn't use their current programmers that they were using to build those games out for the TRS-80 and the Apple line because the programmers were in Japan and they never heard of Atari. Imagine that. Anyways, the company had 60 employees, as I mentioned at that time. 12 of those 60 were actual programmers. And many of those programmers were actually doing conversions between the different platforms now that they had Atari in their lineup. And get this is the part I thought was just pretty amazing. These programmers were paid on a royalty basis. So it could range anywhere between 15 to 30% depending on the market conditions. So you really didn't get paid until you really produced. They did give an example of one of the programmers, David Snyder, who created the pinball game David's Midnight Magic. He apparently made over 6 figures back then. Not specifically exactly how much over 6, but let's just say if it was $150,000 back in 1983, if you calculate inflation, that would be equivalent to about $460,000 today. Not too bad for a game. But here's the risk, though, for this company. Some of that software may take up to about 18 months to actually produce or program. So what they end up doing was they funded the programmers some money up front so they would have some form of income to live off of. That was pretty nice, but it was a pretty big gamble for the company. But at the end, the company ended up selling to SoftKey in 1998. So that was about, 18, 19 years that they were in existence. Trivia here, do you know who started that company, SoftKey, and who was involved with the purchase of Broderbund? It was Mr. Wonderful himself, Kevin O'Leary from Shark Tank. That was pretty interesting to learn. It was not in this article, of course, because Shark Tank was just recent, but doing some research on that company, I realized he was the founder of SoftKey and part of that acquisition. I always found it fun to look and see what your dollar could buy back then. So as I was going through this issue back 40 years ago, I did come across something that was pretty amazing. I mean, maybe not so much amazing, but just kind of eye-opening. And it was an advertisement here for Donkey Kong, $39.95. $39.95, $40. I think that's a lot of money today, let alone 40 years ago. And then, like I said, if you adjust for inflation, which was just around, oh, what was that, about under 3% per year. So you could pretty much just multiply that by 3 times for today's dollar value. What is that, $40 times $320 in today's money? That's pretty heavy. And then don't forget to add tax. And then, of course, if you're paying by MasterCard or Visa, you had to add 3% because they want to make sure they transfer that fee to you, the consumer. Anyways, there was another cool advertisement, a track drive. It's on my wish list to find. If anyone knows, hit me up because I'd buy that. And then being that this is an October issue, you know, we're right now in the stride of football, American football season. And there was a number of football games referenced in here, as we'll get to. There's a football game here for the 5200. But they also talked about a lot of other ones in this section here, Gridiron Grit. So here they have nice little articles on games like the Atari Football, Gridiron Glory, which I did own, very much of a strategy game, more text than joystick oriented. There was Football Strategy, that was from Avalon Hill, maker of a lot of strategy games. And then Super Bowl from Nexa. What else? Then they went into a little bit of soccer games because, you know, we're talking football in Europe, soccer. Now, the focus on all these games was with a variety of play. Some used the joystick to test your skills in winning, while others were more on play calling to see what your strategy was, you know, based on your stats that you would see for the players, and then see how you would prevail at the end. So it was a pretty good mix of games and different types of ways of playing it. And then there's a lot of advertisements, as you could see, but I totally get it. You know, magazines were funded by the companies paying for some advertising space within. And I don't mind that because that's another way of me to find things I want to buy, right? I mean, back then when you were a kid, you went thumbing through these magazines and like pictured out which games you wanted for Christmas. So here is the first basic game I found in this issue. It was called Trackstar. So this is a public domain game, of course. Here's the code for it. Requires 16K of RAM. And it looks like a pretty cool game just by the picture that was here. You are this character that's going through this obstacle and maneuvering around rocks and trees with using your joystick too. So that was pretty nice. And your goal is to get all the way down to the bottom, hit that white flag, and go back up, and that would complete one lap. And you have to do 3 laps. And really, it's a race against time because it's the best score is the lowest score is what you want to get in time, and then that's how you would play against your friends. The code, it's in BASIC, and it's not too bad. I mean, don't know how many lines looking at it, but we'll talk more about that in a little bit. Continue further through this. There is another game here called Alpha Run. So this game is underneath the education section, which is nice because you want to involve the little ones, right? And it's a way to learn your ABCs. It's a very interesting game from the graphics and what I was reading about it. Kind of put it in order, A through Z, and it's not too long. Actually, I take that back. It continues on page 101. That was another thing with Antic. I love it because the advertisements would take up some space or the next article would come in. You kind of get the impression it's a short program, and then you look, there's more to it on page 101. It continues, and maybe just a few more lines of code. Maybe not a few, maybe about a dozen or so. Oh, another drive here. How about this? The Astra 1620. Now, I never owned that, nor have I ever seen anyone that owned it, but doesn't that give you some reminders of the Atari 815 dream that never launched? So this was $5.95 for it back in 1983. And again, doing my calculations, we're looking at roughly around $1,800 for this drive. So well, let's see what else we have in this Kids Corner. So we have another game here. This one is called Mountain Skiing. Here's the cool part. Andrei Persitsky, age 12. That's pretty amazing. Same age I was when this magazine came out. Anyways, it's a very short game. There's like, what, about 30, I'd say 35 lines of code to type in. And there's no picture images to see what it looks like. I'm kind of curious as to see what this really is. I mean, the programmer, the creator is 12 years old. So let's type this one in now. Let's give it a look. Okay, we are done. Finally, let's give a quick list of this 35 or so lines. And we'll give it a run. All right, got the joystick ready to go. Press a key. It's pretty cool. 12-year-old program coded this game. Simple concept. I know there's more to it than this. This looks very familiar. It mentions trees. I don't see trees yet. I guess I'm not far enough. Let's see. There's trees. Whoa. 14. Oh. Let's try this again. What if it goes across the screen? Yep. Pretty cool. Not as easy as you think. I mean, I'm in the middle of the screen making decisions which way to go. And it gets more and more crowded as I go further, as you can tell. Nowhere safe. $14 again. I gotta get through 19. I have to do it at least once. $18. I was so close. Oh. Okay, I did change one thing in the code just so I could see what it looks like when you do achieve a goal. That's not cheating because I just want to showcase this guy's code of how cool it would look once you do get to that level, instead of wasting your time watching me try this over and over again. So let's see if I can get to it. I made it at 12 being the goal instead of 19, which I think should be attainable. I won't get the boulders. I'll get right to the trees. And then it'll be right around that time, which I'd be at 12. Here we go. Let's see. There we go. Goal 1 is reached. So that's pretty cool. It does that, and it starts you back up. Cycles through it again, and remembers you've got goal 1 in your pocket, and now we continue forward. Let's see if I get the 2 goals. Okay. I didn't, so I got to 8. I reached 8, goal 1. So pretty cool. Very simple game, very small game as far as coding goes. There's only, like I said, 35, 33 lines maybe. A lot of that was print statements for just instructions. Tell me what you guys think about that. Comment down below and let me know. Again, remember, this was written by a 12-year-old back in 1983. And then as we continue further, nearing the back here, this was probably one of my favorite areas as well. New products. You could see some of the new software and hardware that was coming out. Mr. Cool, I remember that. Qbert clone type game. And then, how about this? Enjoy Stick, the TJS 400. So this $29.95. It's the first joystick designed and contoured to fit comfortably in the palm of your hand. The Enjoy Stick is also ambidextrous. It has a fire button on one side for use by right-handers and a switch for left-handed players. Another special feature, it also has a self-centering control stick to prevent joystick fatigue. I would love to see what that looked like. I don't know if I will in the future issues, but if someone does know, please by all means share that with us or give me a link to somewhere, comment down below. What else here? We have product reviews. Okay. Here's something I like. Blue Max, one of my favorite games as well. A nice product review on that. Who could forget that music? I mean, I can hear it right now. It was, what was it? Rural Britannia. And that 3D was a World War I image that you'd have, your dog fighting. I mean, I played this for hours. It was better. I mean, I played Zaxxon first, and then I got into this, and I definitely like this view better than the Zaxxon view. What else do they have here reviewing as far as products go? You got Snooper Troops. You have hockey. Oh, Bible baseball. So your performance on the field is based on your knowledge of the Old Testament. Apparently there's also a Jewish IQ baseball. Same game, but based on Jewish history and customs and traditions. So this is pretty cool. I think it's nice that a company here brings into your faith into the gaming and the computer age. I never knew that there was this game out there. Don't know how well I would do, but that is very different. So that would pretty much cover it for Antic, the Atari Resource, Volume 2, Number 7, from October 1983. Now let's head over to the Analog. Okay, so now we're looking at the Analog Computing Magazine for September and October of 1983. This is number 13. I love the front cover art. And if you can see what's there, it's a dream. It's Atari 1400 XL. I'm sure they'll talk more about that inside. And let's jump in. What I found interesting about this issue, there was just a couple things here and there. There was a lot of duplicates or maybe repetitive stuff that was in Antic. But the editorial section here that I'm looking at was pretty interesting. It's not really the editorial itself, but on the corner, there's a little section about the Atari Computer Convention. Curious, any of you been to TARICON 83? Curious how many there were, if there was TARICON 84, 85, 86. But it looks like this convention or gathering of Atari enthusiasts was somewhat new. I'm not sure when it started, but it says it's sponsored by the Michigan Atari Computer Enthusiasts. Then they have this reader comment section, which is similar to Antics I/O board section, where the readers send in their input of ideas to share with other readers. But this one here had a pretty large submission by one reader talking about his Atari 400 hacks. And one of the hacks he made is number 4, talking about Monkey Wrench. So that's that software cartridge that only goes into the right cartridge, which is used with the Atari 800. So with the 400, you only have the one cartridge. But what this person did was he created a hack in order for it to work. Basically, what he did was no pun intended, he used BASIC. He took his BASIC cartridge, opened it up, took the two ROMs from there and put it onto the monkey wrench cart. He piggybacked it on. Didn't get into full details on what he actually did or how it looks, but he mentions that he also added some wires to it. Sounds like some kind of creative ideas that maybe if it worked, great, but really can't have proof of it. It sounds conceptually that it would work, but that was an interesting hack, how he got that to work in his 400. And then he also notes with number 5 here about a serial LED indicator. So he added an LED light onto his Atari 400 that would light up when serial data is coming into the computer, which makes sense because sometimes you don't know if your computer is locked and you want to make sure it's doing work with data going back and forth, but this will at least tell you with the light. He doesn't give details exactly how he created this, but it sounds like it possibly could work. Then if you go further down here, we go looking at the new products section. Again, like I said, there's some repetition here. There's Mr. Cool and Blue Max. The peripherals, here we go. As I mentioned on the cover, the 1400 XL, these new peripherals are pretty exciting to read if you were back in 1983. It's wishful thinking, I guess, with the Atari 1400 XL and the 1450 XLD. Both of them were scheduled for late October based on this write-up. This is what was shown at the Summer Consumer Electronics Show in Chicago. So imagine how cool it would be to have an XL with a built-in modem and voice synthesizer and then another computer option you can get with a dual-sided double-density drive built in. I mean, many theories as to why this never came about. Here is an interesting comparison of what could have been. Oh, and I like this. You can subscribe to Analog on disc or cassette. My millennials, Gen Zs, and Gen Alphas would flip out if you told them that we had this form of media 40 years ago to transfer this type of print, magazine print, and programs into this type of format, cassettes and floppies. I actually, you know what, now I think about it, you'd actually have to explain first what a cassette is and then what a floppy is. But those were the days, right? What I noticed in comparison with Antic and Analog at the same time frame was that Analog didn't have a lot of engaging programs for kids or young adults to type in and play games. They had more technical, I'd say, and probably utility-like programs in this issue. I mean, there were 2 games you could type in if you choose. One was in assembly called Roundup, and the other one was in BASIC called Space Assault. And then the other programs in this issue were, let's see here, an astronomy program and a CIO utility program that would aid in transferring large data from disk or cassette into memory. I mean, does that sound like fun? I get it, there's use for that, but those are nice utilities and they do provide the code to type it in, but maybe most of us back then, being preteen, we like our games too. Now don't get me wrong, I did own both Antic and Analog magazines back in the 80s, and I did find a value for each of them. I mean, one, like I said, was more utility based, seemed more technical, perhaps. I don't know if that's the right word, but the other one seemed to have more of the games. They seemed more colorful. It just seemed more of something I would like when I was, whatever I was, 11, 12 years old. But as I've gotten older, now I realize the value from each side of it, and I do appreciate it. So that's kind of why I'm doing these videos, these series of Antic and Analog, because there was a lot that it offered, and maybe we overlooked a lot of that stuff or took it for granted because we only focused on one area, like games perhaps, or maybe just utilities, and we didn't realize some of the other things that were in there. So hopefully you enjoy this first of the monthly series called Antics and Analogs, a look back 40 years ago. I will work to continue improving the presentation, but until next time, keep that gaming passion for the past alive by living it today. Take care, everyone.